When you think of ancient Persia, your mind might go to, I don't know, Persian rugs, maybe some amazing food. But what if I told you that this ancient empire literally reshaped some of the most core beliefs in both Judaism and Christianity? Well, today we're going to pull back that curtain and explore this incredible and often overlooked connection. And to really get into it, let's start with a big, kind of provocative question. Where did the devil actually come from? I mean, this character, God's ultimate cosmic enemy, the source of all evil, he's absolutely central to the New Testament. But here's the crazy part. If you go back and read the Old Testament, he's basically not there. So what on earth happened in between? And he gets even weirder because the gap is way bigger than just the devil. Take the whole idea of cosmic evil. In the Old Testament, Satan is just a title. It means adversary, and he's an angel who works for God. But fast forward to the New Testament, and he's the devil, God's mortal enemy. We see the exact same thing with angels. They go from these unnamed messengers to having names we all know, like Michael and Gabriel. And maybe the biggest leap of all is the afterlife. It goes from this vague, shadowy place called Sheol to this core, passionate belief in the resurrection of the dead. I mean, these aren't minor adjustments. These are huge, fundamental shifts in theology. So this massive gap, it all opened up during what scholars call the intertestamental period, that time between when the Old and New Testaments were written. And the consensus is that a really powerful outside influence provided the missing link, a totally new way of looking at God, evil, and what happens after we die. And that influence, it came from the Persian Empire. For about 200 years, the Jewish people lived under Persian rule. And this wasn't just some military occupation. We're talking about a long, sustained period of really intense cultural contact. Ideas were definitely being exchanged. So what was Persian culture even like? Well, the ancient Greeks called them eclectic, which is a polite way of saying they were master borrowers. They didn't just conquer other cultures, they watched them, they saw ideas they liked, and they made them their own. And honestly, they often improved them in the process. Their famous gardens are the perfect example of how they operated. They saw the incredible hanging gardens of Babylon, and they thought, hey, we can do that. So they adopted the concept, and then they perfected it, creating the legendary Persian gardens. This pattern, encounter, adopt, perfect, it's totally key to understanding their impact. And this reminds us of a really crucial point. Influence doesn't just flow downhill from the conquered to the conquered. You know that old saying about the Romans and the Greeks? The conquered can absolutely captivate the conqueror. So even though Persia was in charge, Jewish thought was in this unique position to absorb all these new ideas without being completely erased. Okay, so if Jewish thought was soaking up new ideas, what was the big idea? Well, the answer lies in the state religion of Persia, Zoroastrianism. It offered this incredibly powerful new way of seeing the universe, and it was all built around a concept called dualism. So at the very top of their system, you have one good God, Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord. He's the creator, the source of all truth, all light, all goodness. Now, this is really important because it created some common ground with Judaism, which of course also revolves around a single good creator God. But, and this is a huge but, Zoroastrianism introduced a totally radical new idea. Ahura Mazda had an equal and opposite force, an evil spirit named Angra Mainyu. He wasn't some fallen angel. He was a powerful, independent anti-god, the source of all lies, all darkness, all evil. This was a game changer, the idea of a cosmic evil force locked in an eternal battle with good. And right here you can see the very core of their belief system. The entire universe was basically a battlefield, a massive struggle between good and evil, truth and what they called the lie, light and darkness. And, this dualistic view gave a pretty compelling explanation for why there's so much suffering and bad stuff in the world. Okay, so how did this cosmic battlefield idea actually influence the changes happening in Judaism? Well, it looks like it provided a whole new vocabulary, a new set of tools, really, that allowed Jewish thinkers to explore and develop their own beliefs in a new way. Let's circle back to Satan. In the Old Testament, you have to understand, the word Satan is not a name. It's a job title. It means the adversary or maybe the accuser. This being was part of God's heavenly court, kind of like a prosecuting attorney. His job was to test people. He worked for God, not against him. Now put that side by side with the Persian Angra Mainyu. This wasn't some employee in God's court. This was an independent, powerful spirit of evil, the father of lies, fighting a cosmic war against all that is good. It's a completely different model for evil. And the change is just undeniable. By the time we get to the New Testament, the character of Satan is totally transformed. It's now a proper name, the devil, and he's God's great cosmic enemy. This new version of Satan looks a whole lot more like the Persian Angra Mainyu than he does the Old Testament's heavenly prosecutor. And we see this same kind of evolution with angels and demons. Before this period, angels in the Old Testament were pretty much anonymous messengers. But during the time of Persian contact, things get a lot more specific. They're given names, Michael, Gabriel, and they're assigned ranks and duties. This whole idea of a highly organized spiritual army, well, it looks an awful lot like the Zoroastrian belief in armies of good and evil spirits, each with a job to do in the cosmic war. But the influence didn't stop with the spiritual world. It extended to one of the most basic human questions there is. What happens to us after we die? And again, the difference between the Old and New Testaments here is just night and day. I mean, it's kind of amazing when you think about it. The ancient Israelites were right next door to cultures like the Egyptians, who were obsessed with the afterlife. But the early parts of the Old Testament are surprisingly quiet about it. The dead just go to this murky, shadowy place called Sheol. There wasn't really a developed idea of judgment or heaven or hell. Zoroastrianism, on the other hand, had this incredibly detailed, dramatic vision of what happens next. Their beliefs included a final judgment for every single soul, a future resurrection of the dead, and get this, even a lake of fire to purify some and destroy others. The parallels to later Jewish and Christian ideas are just impossible to miss. And sure enough, by the time of Jesus, the idea of resurrection was no longer some vague concept. For major Jewish groups like the Pharisees, it had become a core, passionate belief. Now, the seeds for this might have already been there in Judaism, but being in close contact with a culture where resurrection was a central idea, well, that likely gave it the framework it needed to really grow and blossom. So, when you put all these pieces together, what does it all mean? Well, it means this period in history was this incredible cultural and theological crossroads where ideas collided and ancient beliefs were reshaped forever. But we have to be a little careful here not to just draw a straight line. As one biblical scholar, Dr. Anthony Tomasino, puts it, it's more like a mystery influencing another mystery. And that's because both Judaism and Zoroastrianism were living, breathing, evolving religions at the time. So, at the end of the day, this wasn't just a simple copy and paste job. The best way to think about it is as a cross-fertilization. These powerful Persian ideas, like cosmic dualism and a detailed afterlife, they gave Jewish thinkers a new language, a new framework to explore big questions that were already starting to bubble to the surface within their own faith. And looking back at all this history leaves us with a pretty fascinating question for our own time. If we can see so clearly how this ancient conversation between two cultures totally shaped what millions of people believe today, it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What conversations with science, with other cultures, with technology, are shaping our own beliefs right here, right now?